you made it out to go see Beau Is Afraid this weekend now that it's been released. You caught it last week. You went to the Lincoln Square IMAX theater because he has an exclusive IMAX release that nobody can get a hold of if you're not living in New York or LA. Like, one theater's playing it for us, but Jimmy Cameron decided to re-release Avatar on a weekend where we have a director coming up with another movie. We needed more original stuff out in IMAX theaters to play. And I was able to catch a screening early on. It was an arm and a leg to go see it at Regal City North near us. It's where we saw Nope together. And it looked pretty cool. That's half the size of the theater you have in New York, though. So you had probably the best experience in watching it in terms of a theater. I don't know if you had any goodies that they gave out for you. When I went,
No.
well, it was a lot.
Yeah,
Bro,
they sent us home empty-handed.
Oh, well, they sent me with some PJs, bro. They're not as knitted as his were, but the limited
yeah, not
edition.
quite monogrammed for you.
No, yeah, they're not silky.
You don't have the silk.
I just love though how all the merch that has been happening with them does do the MW stuff, which, without getting into too much spoilers, isn't really a company. It's a company within the world of Beau Is Afraid. But A24, if they're gonna give you the budget of a little small tiny Marvel movie, they're gonna get their merch out some way. I then went to the Alamo because we had gone to a Cubs game and the Cubs had a really good game. The next time you come over, I'm gonna have to take you to a Cubs game. This is what they serve their beer in.
I still have never been to Wrigley.
It's the most ridiculous thing, bro. You got to come. it's going to be a good time. But they opened up an Alamo Draft House right next to Wrigley, and I saw they posted these up on A24 to sell. I was a slowpoke. I missed a hat, so if anybody snatched up a hat, please let me know. Because I ended up with these freebies over at the Alamo Draft House. It's the keychain that they sell with it, so I almost have everything for the collectibles for Beau Is Afraid.
Nice.
And maybe an understanding of the movie, because this is the most confusing movie to have come out. You talked about it briefly last week. How is it sat with you?
You know, I think it's such a huge, assaultive, crazy maximalist experience. You know, Ari Aster is throwing every type of anxiety you can think of at the screen at you, that it is so overwhelming. I don't know if it feels easy to wrap your arms around. So I definitely left the theater in a bit of a shell-shocked, unable to fully process its state. I don't feel like it completely confused me in terms of the main trajectory of the story. I feel like that is actually pretty easy to explain. But there's
What's your pitch to it?
I mean, I've been describing it as a Jewish version of the what is it, Christmas Story? Or no, what is it?
Carol?
With the Christmas Carol, with the ghosts of Christmas past, future, and present, because he kind of goes on these visions of his past, future, and present. It's just that it has this sort of cruel twist of fate that feels a little bit more anxiety motivated than the optimism of A Christmas Carol. You know that.
Yeah.
But, you know, while I do feel like there is kind of that through line that I felt like I got and I understood, there are just all these tangents and all these moments and all these just eccentricities that Ari Aster puts into the film that I don't know if I could even begin to start and try and parse. Although, you know, I guess we got to try, right?
We have to try. I'm excited for it. There's no footage out there, but I know we want to work on some spoiler stuff later on in the week. So in terms of recommending this movie, if you've seen Hereditary, I still think that's his most... It's one of my personal favorites. I think it's the most accessible. I hate using that word, but I mean, time-wise, it accessibly is the easiest movie to watch. Midsommar, I know, had some people a little bit more on edge. They weren't really sure how to feel about that movie. I think it is one of the best breakup movies. This is going to be the most difficult one of his. I can't say yo, it's Saturday night, go take the whole family, kids, everybody to go see Beau Is Afraid. Because it's 2 hours and 59 minutes. You feel it. It is definitely segmented into parts. After seeing it 2 times, I'm rocking with it, man. Look, I feel like this is his... He's at that point where we're getting all these directors getting on the third movie. Nope as well, being a third movie for Jordan Peele. You have several directors from Eggers to even, I'd say, with Barbarian, these movies where directors who have done a lot of comedy begin with horror. Only to then kind of go full circle and come back to doing this almost dark comedy-esque type thing. that I honestly loved. I think the easiest part to recommend is the first act of this movie.
Yes.
It's in this headspace where you can't tell if it's how he perceives the world to be or if the world is this loony. Either way, I
Right.
was in it. It's got this tone where you just take everything to the max. Like when you're a little kid, this is like a guy who's never grown up. You're a little kid and your mom doesn't get home in time, and it's 6.
Exactly.
By the time it's 6:01, you think the worst thing possibly happened, and that's this whole movie.
I mean, it's the experience of living through the world through the shoes of somebody who's been taught to be afraid
Yes.
of everything in the world. And no, maybe no part better exemplifies that, like you said, than that whole beginning section when Beau is in his apartment in the city, and the city is like this Fox News hellscape, you know?
Bruh.
It's like what
It's what
every...
Martin Scorsese said it was.
It's like what every like person who thinks that, you know, living in the city is like a constant slalom through drug crime and stabbings. That's what their vision of urban
It's
life
Gotham.
is like.
Yeah.
Right. But it's just so funny because it's so like it's so heightened in a way that, like, even though Ari is a filmmaker who's really good at poking at your nerves in a way that unsettles and frightens you, here he's doing it in a way that it's like sometimes there's a therapy and exercise, there's a exercise in therapy called a worry well, where basically you're supposed to like think about your deepest, biggest worries, like the biggest fears you have, and sometimes in articulating them, you realize how ridiculous you are. You know, like if you think like, oh, I'm gonna mess this up and my boss is gonna punch me in the face, like absolutely not. That's not gonna happen. But like you can still
make
sort of
yourself
have that
believe that
anxiety
trajectory,
about
yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
This movie is that experience for 3 hours.
Yes. And as miserable as that can be, it's so effectively well done,
It's
in my
very
opinion.
funny. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is hysterical, and I'm a person who, when you rewatch Hereditary and Midsommar, I think those movies are hysterical. He has been doing rescreenings now that he has presented a comedy, and people are like, "Ari, did you know your last movies are funny?" And he's just sitting there like, "Yeah, I've kind of been. I saw you go back and watch a lot of his short films. This dude isn't. He's goofy. His comedy is juvenile to the point that I was perplexed by
Yeah,
some
I mean,
of
if
the
you've got
some of
a
these
short
shorts, bro.
called Tino's Dick Fart, like, come on.
It's funny because people consider him like the Criterion dude, right? Like, oh, he's there in the
Right.
closet picking up the... Nah, man.
sophisticated.
Tell him what the short is.
Tino's Dick Fart really works.
You know there's an Easter egg to this in the movie as well?
Is it what, in Beau Is Afraid?
In Beau Is Afraid, there's an Easter egg
Do
to
they have
this
the
movie.
device or something?
It's, well, I don't want to spoil too much in it, but I would say that even in reverse, there is a Beau Is Afraid Easter egg in Tino's Dick Fart. It's just a
Ooh.
whole expanded universe. What can you say? There's a lot of theories we can get into. We definitely want to do a spoiler one later on in the week. But in terms of recommending this movie, I'll easily, any day of the week, say go watch Hereditary. If you've been in a bad relationship, I'd be iffy to recommend Midsommar. I don't know who to pitch Beau Is Afraid to. It may be too difficult to watch in theaters for some people, but I do recommend catching it at some point. Because this
Yeah.
is a movie where you need to reflect on it with your own insecurities, your own doubts, and whatever makes you guilty. I think in due time, people are going to look back on it and really appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah.
But at 3 hours, it is a gruesome experience.
Yeah. Did it exhaust
and a heavy
you?
one.
Because I definitely,
Yes.
as much as I appreciated and was kind of awed by it, like by hour 2, it is very exhausting.
There's technically 5 segments, but really it's 3 that you kind of have. That beginning moment, the moment when he goes out into the world, and not spoiling how everything goes, but there's that middle part where you see a lot of colors coming to fruition that you
Yeah.
see in the trailer. I
It
was
gets a little more
a little gone
fantastical.
by that. Yeah, the first time.
Yeah.
By the second time, that was probably one of my favorite sequences. So it's one of those where it's asking the audience to kind of give a little, to come back and return to the movie. At 3
Yeah.
hours, that's difficult for mainstream audiences to do, but I think in due time, once all the explainers are out there, I think a lot of people are
Right.
going to be able to connect things and appreciate the movie more.
I mean, I generally find like the experience of watching a movie sometimes can be more difficult that first time when you're trying to figure out where it's going, especially with a long film like that where you really don't know where the journey is going to end. And then when you are able to revisit it as you have, like, and this is going to lead to that, which is going to lead to the next thing. It all makes a little more sense and flows a little bit better. So yeah, maybe it's too much for some people to sit in a theater and get assaulted like that for 3 hours. But there's a lot that is really worthwhile here, and especially if you're just like excited by the ability of a filmmaker to push on your buttons and make you uncomfortable. This is a really must-see movie. I mean, I think I said this last week too, but this is the film that has most boldly dared to get an F cinema score since Mother. Like, it just does not care what you think about it.
And you know I love Mother. If you can catch this in an IMAX, please do so. There's some great sound design. It also has to do with the story because you're getting into his mind. And Joaquin said, go take some substances, go in there. We had at our second screening these two girls who just downed 2 bottles of wine. Boy, did they love the Parker Posey scene in the most twisted way possible. But yeah, it was a blast. It has been very interesting to see the movie end and people just go, "Are you serious?" And then no one knowing when to get up during those credits. So if you are willing to go see the Ari Aster movie, go support it. I know it cost a lot more than his last 2 combined.
Yeah, what do you think? Is Ari Aster's career over?
Nah, bro, I'm so excited to see what he has next. The next one's the Western, right?
Yeah, I think so. With Joaquin again.
Hey, they did a killer job with this one. I'm excited for it. But let us know your favorite Ari Aster film so far from what he's released, if you enjoyed this new one, and your theories on it, because we'll be getting to those spoilers soon.